Fellow Biafrans, on the occasion of your rally to demonstrate your solidarity with the struggles of your kith and kin back home, I send to you all fraternal greetings. As one who has been entrusted with the onerous responsibilities of guiding our young republic through these difficult times, I must confess that it is always a source of deep pleasure and encouragement to me to receive assurances of the support of the people and their continuing determination to persevere until complete victory is achieved. It is, therefore, with feelings of unbounded pleasure and deep appreciation that I salute this august gathering. You are all aware that for over 4 months now, Nigeria has been waging a war of aggression to destroy Biafra and her people. This invasion by Nigerian hordes was mounted because the people of the former eastern region of Nigeria were forced on May the 30th, 1967, to declare themselves the independent state of Biafra in order to assure the security of their lives and property. As you are aware, the people of the former eastern region of Nigeria had believed, as if it were an article of faith, in the concept of a united Nigeria. No section of the then Federation of Nigeria had worked as assiduously for the attainment of this ideal as did Eastern Nigeria and her people. No section had made as many and varied positive contributions towards the realization of true unity. Having over the years spearheaded the movement for closer union, having demonstrated our faith in Nigeria in concrete terms by allowing our sons and daughters to sojourn in other parts of the country, thereby contributing tremendously to the development of such areas to the neglect of our own, it was a hard decision for us to take to opt out of a federation in which we had invested so much. But we had no real choice. Over the years, our erstwhile compatriots had made it clear in unmistakable terms that they did not want us in the Federation. Since the 1950s, our people were expropriated and discriminated against in parts of Nigeria other than their own. Furthermore, the experience of the 3 harrowing waves of remorseless genocide in 1945, 1953, and especially in 1966, involving a total of nearly 40,000 dead and countless others maimed or destitute, provided an object lesson which could not but be taken seriously. Self-preservation is probably the strongest human instinct, and it is this that has compelled the harassed and persecuted people of eastern Nigeria to seek refuge in their own home and amongst their kindred. As a proverb of one of our Biafran languages has it, a man who is rejected by others cannot reject himself. The inordinate ambition of the Hausa Fulani oligarchy to continue to dominate the whole of what was formerly the Federation of Nigeria, the unrealistic desire to acquire the wealth and resources of Biafra while rejecting their people, the mad and homicidal desire to exterminate from the face of the earth 14 million Biafrans drove Gawan and his clique towards unleashing a costly war to attain the unattainable, the subjugation of this young but promising republic. Even with the vast resources of the former Federation of Nigeria with which to prosecute the war, even with the active collaboration of those international opportunists, Britain and the Soviet Union, an unholy alliance of vested interests, even with the attempt to subvert our government by suborning some of our highly placed military and civilian personnel, an attempt which was foiled at the nick of time, Gawan has failed to make good his boast to crush Biafra. A campaign which he bragged would only take 48 hours to accomplish has now dragged on for almost 5 months and will drag on for as long as it takes Gawan and his clique, both Nigerian and others, to realize that nothing can shake the will or crush the spirit of a determined people. If Gawan's military campaign has achieved anything, it is only a confirmation of the fact to expect but destruction from the hands of their erstwhile Nigerian compatriots. In the few border towns which fell into the hands of the Nigerian forces, Biafrans were pillaged and what could not be stolen was destroyed, while the men were shot and tortured and the women defiled. Even foreign correspondents have testified to the massive killings of people of Biafran origin and a particular ethnic grouping in the Republic of Benin when that young republic fell into the hands of the Nigerians as a result of treachery. Instead of accepting the fact and the truth which they know, that they forced the people of the former eastern region out of the Federation, the Nigerian aggressors have been attempting to dupe the world by claiming that we seceded in order to keep our oil wealth to ourselves. You all know that in spite of our oil and other resources, the former Eastern Nigerians were always the greatest advocates of unity. General Ironsi, himself an Easterner, was murdered by the northern Nigerians because of his determination to unify the country. For a people who have made such great sacrifices and abandoned their most valuable investments in Nigeria in quest for safety, this is the unkindest thing to say. No, it is the Nigerian leaders themselves who are in fact guilty of what they accuse us of and have shown beyond doubt that they are only interested in having our resources and not our people. Our detractors have also attempted to confuse African and indeed world opinion by propagating the despicable falsehood that our independence will be a precedent for separation in other African states. They have not bothered to ask themselves, for instance, what was the precedent for the alleged Biafran secession? The truth is that one secession does not necessarily lead to another. Throughout history, there has been a long list of empires that broke up into nations and federations which split into sovereign states. The Union of Great Britain and Ireland, the federations of Mali, Malaysia, West Indies, and Central Africa are recent examples of this. The disintegration occurred on account of unique local factors or to grave linguistic and religious differences. Biafra, however, remains a lesson to all countries of what could happen if they were to unleash a pogrom against a section of their own community. Amongst other spurious arguments trumped up by the Lagos clique is another that Nigeria is a single interdependent economic unit and that its disintegration would disrupt established market trends and leave the separate economies so much poorer. It is true that as between the regions of the former Nigerian Federation, the economic pattern was one of interdependence, but this is equally true of all world economies which are complementary. But this should not make us to try and force unworkable political units on an unwilling people merely to create a large market. It is enough for both states to enter into trade and technical agreements. With more efficient planning, these separate units could even be made economically more prosperous. This also disproves the argument that Nigeria would not be viable without Biafra. Perhaps Nigeria may be poorer for it, and it should have occurred to its leaders to be more tolerant of people who they now admit constituted their wealth. But the rest of Nigeria has enough potentiality to remain a great and united African state, if only its leaders would show realism and imagination in harnessing their vast potential resources. The Nigerian leaders demonstrated their scorn for African opinion, which they are now trying desperately to cultivate by refusing to accept our calls for a peaceful resolution of our conflict through the good offices of many African states. Even when they had reluctantly agreed to the Organization for African Unity's desire to mediate, they are taking steps to frustrate their efforts. Biafra is no longer asking for anyone's mediation, but is willing at all times, as in the past, to resolve its conflict with Lagos at the conference table. The Organization of African Unity has shown itself insensitive to our suffering and incapable of resolving the crisis. A so-called mediation, which presumes that there is only one side to a dispute and can go to every length to appease that side, cannot be expected to be fair, objective, and just. The present conflict can now be resolved by individual states taking initiative by recognizing our right to existence and urging on Nigeria to abandon her war of aggression against an injured people. Having failed on all scores, the Nigerians have raised the bogey of a minority in Biafra being forced into independence against their wish. This again is far from the truth. Our people, irrespective of their ethnic grouping, have shown conclusively their commitment to and support of the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Biafra by their sacrifice in blood and contribution to the war effort. The decision to declare the sovereign and independent state of Biafra was a unanimous one made by the chiefs, leaders, and representatives of all communities in Biafra at the Consultative Assembly and Council of Chiefs and Elders. The so-called representatives of the minorities in Lagos have never had any popular backing, were defeated in elections in their own homes during the civilian era, and have since been denounced by their own people. Some of them, like Okoye Arikpo, are themselves guilty of intellectual dishonesty, since they were party or sponsors of the constitutional proposals creating the present provinces of the Republic of Biafra in order to allay minority fears. Our people know enough of Lagos and can testify that the massacre of thousands of then Eastern Nigerians was irrespective of tribal affiliation. The bombing and other military brutalities since Biafran independence have followed the same pattern. Having suffered together, they are now united together in solidarity to fight on to victory to assure a place of honor and respect for themselves and their children. When the Lagos Vandals realized that they were doomed to failure, they, along with their foreign megaphones like the BBC, thought that they could win by pretending to be doing so. They are trying to make the world believe that they have taken Enugu, that the war is virtually ended, and that they are now engaged in the task of reconstruction. Nothing is further from the truth. Our valiant forces have continued to keep the enemy at the few border towns and zones they have captured by treachery. The gallant Biafran forces are now in control of most of Enugu and Bonny and are gradually wiping out the enemy invaders at Calabar. They have also re-entered Ugoja. The Nigerian troops will never forget the lesson of their Onitsha invasion, where thousands of their men were decimated. Our troops are fighting bravely and will continue to do so until victory is won. The Nigerians appear not to know that by unleashing a war of aggression, in addition to several past injuries, they have aroused a whole people against them. This is a people's war for freedom. Biafra has come to stay, and the fact of our independence is irreversible. Ours is a nation of 14 million people with various ethnic groupings, united together by past sufferings and present freedom, and nothing can shake our determination. Conscious of the justness of their cause, and with God on our side, our people are determined to fight to the last man, confident of eventual success. May God bless you all, fellow Biafrans, and keep and protect Biafra.